All right. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for coming to today's walkthrough of the annual report templates. I know it's everyone's favorite thing to do every year, so I figured we'd do this year's walkthrough. Not a lot has changed. I think maybe one thing changed for the ILS related reports, and I think it's just a number for the question. I think it went from like 2A to number 3. So nothing really big. So if you did your reports for last year with our templates, it's going to be very similar, if not the same. So you'll have a little bit of deja vu. So let me share our support portal website is support.sparkpa.org. All of our documentation will be on this page. You can get step-by-step instructions for each template or for each question. And then we'll also put links to the recording. And you can always ask us for additional help via the support portal as well. You can either visit or you can email us at support.sparkpa.org. That's also in the chat. So I think I see a few new names to reports in general. So I'll do a basic walkthrough of getting your folders set up so that you have a place for all of your reports and templates to live. And oh, thank you, Katie. And then we'll get into the individual reports themselves for each question. So let me share my screen. This is the support portal. You can see that we have the annual reports documentation up front and center. So there we go. So you can see there's all the questions that we have, as well as instructions and things. So if you go to the home, it kind of walks you through the whole process. So if you ever have questions, you can always refer back to here. So getting started with reports is pretty easy. When you log in for the first time, you will not have this like little icon that looks like a folder. So that means you have to create folders for your templates, your reports, and your outputs. So reports in the full reporter is a 3-component process. Templates are, I like to think of them, or at least describe them, as kind of like your recipe. You have all of the individual ingredients. In the reports, you fill in the quantities of those things, and then your output hopefully is something editable. And in our case, something that will answer the question that you're looking for. So you need a place for all of those things to live. So when you get started, if you don't have this little icon, it probably looks like just a blank square. You'll just want to click on each of these, so templates, and it'll give you the option to create a new folder. And you can name it whatever you want. If you want to have your items broken out into different types of reports, you can do that as well. You could have just one folder and then go from there. It does benefit you greatly to be as organized as you can with reports because they can get a little unruly. So sometimes people have like one report for testing and then one report for reports that are actually working. So let's just name this one Annual Report 2023. You can name it whatever you want. You can share it with others. If we ever ask you, like if you put in a support ticket and you ask for help, we usually ask you to share the folder that your template lives in. So we only ask that you share ones that are functioning templates. So for now, I'm just going to say do not share. And then if you were to share, you do have the option of sharing with Spark, with Test System, which is the system I'm logged in at, or our library, which is the Nugget Davis Memorial Free Friendly Library of PA, which is our test library. So you would create your subfolder. And then you would do the same for reports, and it does carry over the name, so you can easily just keep hitting create subfolder, and you can also do the same for output. And then when when the screen refreshes, you'll now see your little folder icon, and you'll see all of your report folders. Um, as you can see, mine is right up here up top. Right, mine's a lot of mess. So um, any questions on creating your folders for your reports, templates, and outputs if you've not done this step ever? Okay, I'm not hearing anything and I'm not seeing anything. So let's move on. So once that you have all of those folders in place, you can now start cloning the templates for the annual report. The annual report templates that we built, these are based on the specifications requested in the annual report, based on the info that was shared. They will be accessible under shared folders down here. And I'm going to click the little arrow to expand, and it's going to be this second option. It may be elsewhere on the list in your library to breakout, but for the most part, it tends to be up closer to the top. And you'll see annual report. Sometimes we have a previous year living in this folder as well, but for this year we cleaned it up and we only have the 2023 templates displaying. You click further on the arrow, it will then further expand the additional folders. As you can see, we have each question broken out into its own folder, and then we have the corresponding name of the question. So hopefully this makes it a lot easier for you to match up which template you need to be running to get the answers or report answers for your question. So I'm going to click on E1, which is cataloged items, and this is the number of items in your collection. And there are a few options. So in Spark, there are a few libraries that run on a calendar year fiscally, and some that run on a July to June. So we have options for those as well. And then there are also libraries that have one library that owns all of the items, and the circulating library is indicated in the records to help differentiate. If you have questions on this, on how your items are set up, and you need help picking a template, just let us know. For the most part, most libraries in Spark will be using this very last one, cataloged items by owning library, filtering on the year. So I'm gonna go do a walkthrough on this one because this is the average, most common one. So to clone this template, and we ask that you clone all of these and put them in your own folders so that you can use them again at your discretion, and you won't lose access to them if we change anything, because you can use these reports for really anything that you're looking for info on outside of the annual report as well. They're not only needed, and they're not limited to access only for the annual report. So you'll want to clone, and then you're going to pick the folder that you created for your reports. So here is mine, annual report 2023. I'm going to select my folder, and then this scary screen will load, and you don't have to do anything. You can just hit save template and hit OK. You don't have to do anything. So it's ready to run, and I'll be able to find it in my templates in my annual report folder. You'll see again the name carried over, the instructions on how to run it, as well as the link to the external documentation. So if you click on the link, It will take you to the support help desk, which will give you then directly to the E1 instructions. And then again, giving you step by step on how to fill it out. So, any questions so far on cloning a report to your own folders?
Can you go over the cloning again? I'm new this year.
Sure. So I went down to annual report and I went into 2023 with documentation and
Okay.
I went to my first folder. And I picked the one that is running best for my situation. And Mary Ellen, I do see your question and I'll get to it just when I finish this. So I'm going to hit the drop down menu up here, clone selected template, and I'm going to hit submit. And I am going to select the folder I created. Your list will be significantly shorter. And I'm going to hit select folder and save template. Oh, I already have one called that, so I have to name it something else. And then it will save. And Katie did put the instructions if you want to see it photo broken down. Mary Ellen asked, I thought July to June libraries enter fiscal year, but circ materials and events were reported as January to December. That I am not sure of. We don't have that info for the annual report. I have just basically like basic info on what they're looking for. Yes, you can check with your district consultant or check with the state library on what the date ranges are. It's
I will
best to,
say that, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to say that it's best to check with your district consultant on it, and then they'll give you further guidance on what date range to enter for materials if you're depending on what your fiscal year is or calendar year. So
When I was a district consultant, what I advised my libraries to do was that everything needs to be the same year. So if the finances are January through June, then the other things should be as well. However, a number of those definitions have been interpreted more correctly and more consistently. So if you are a fiscal year library, it's a good thing to check in with your district consultant and or OCL liaison outlet just to make sure that what you're doing is consistent across your district.
so there were changes and they'll have new instructions. So Kathleen shared. So
Okay, perfect. So yes, if they're going to Claire, okay. Thank you, Erin. So yes, so as always, follow your own district consultant's advice, but it looks like they are trying to make it standardized across the state, which would have everybody reporting their collections questions on the calendar year. We have both types of reports off. I know that libraries that are fiscal year libraries may want to see that data on a fiscal year basis as well to match up with budgets. So you'll see templates for both in our folders.
great. So let's do a walkthrough of that question E1. So I've cloned the template and I'm going to go to my folder for annual report. You'll see I have two now because I did clone one. You can always delete them by selecting the one you want to delete. And then from this drop-down menu, just select deleted templates. So we're going to run our report. You're going to check the box next to the template that we're running. So we're going to do E1 and we're going to select create a new report from selected template. And then I'm going to hit submit. What it'll do is it'll load this screen. You'll see the name of the template at the top, the person who created it, which is me. It'll have my template description, including instructions, which I will have to update a little on the template. And then you can also go to the link if you need to. But the main key points are you're going to fill in the name in this first red box. You can name it whatever you would like. I'm just going to call it E1 2023. Again, the reports only live on the server for 90 days. So if you can't get these back after that time frame. So run them, download whatever you need, because it won't live on the server forever. So name it whatever you'd like. We're going to put it in a folder. So you can see I have my annual report folder here. This is, again, saving the answers to these questions. And then here at the create date, we're just going to put in 2024. And what this is going to do is it's going to look for items that were in the collection before 2024. That's why we're picking that year. So we're looking for things that were created before this time. All right, and then for this line where it says call number owning library, I'm just gonna pick my library. Actually, my library doesn't have anything, so let me pick another library. I'm gonna pick my friends up in the Susquehanna area, and we're gonna pick their Montrose branch. So we'll just get some rough numbers for demonstration purposes. So again, you're gonna pick 2024 because it's looking for items created before this year, and owning libraries. This line is indicating that it's going to filter out items that are deleted. So anything that you deleted will be safely not included in this report. The next few elements, you can select if you want an Excel output or if you want a CSV output. Most people pick the Excel. It's the easiest one, and you can save it somewhere on your computer or network drive. If you are running it for multiple libraries or you want it to calculate subtotals, you can check that box. You can have it display an output if you want, as well as bar charts. But if it's not a number, it's not going to be able to do it. This one is a number, so we should be able to see something. We're going to not reoccur this. We don't need it to run every day, but we just want it to run as soon as possible. You'll put in your email address if you want it sent to you, or you can type in multiple addresses and just separate them with a comma. So if you need multiple people to see it, and this goes for any report, you can just put those in there. I don't want it emailed, so I'm going to remove it. And then you're going to pick your output folder. And that's going to save your report in one of those folders that you created earlier. So I'm going to hit save report. It's going to tell me my action was succeeded. And now I wait. So either it'll arrive in my email, or I can come over here to my output folder and find my annual report. And I'll see that it has finished over here. Anything that is still running will come up under this pending items. And then anything completed will display here. And to view the report, I just put a check in the box and select view report output from our drop-down menu and hit submit. And it will give me a number or this lovely graph, which is kind of hard to read, but you can always download it via Excel, or you can hit tabular output and you can see the number of items. And since I did check that box for subtotals, it did total it, but there was only one number, so it's the same. All right, any questions on running question E1? Okay. So let's continue on. So we're going to go back down to share folders. You don't have to like clone it and then run it. You can clone them all and then run them all. I'm just doing it this way because it makes sense to me. So question E2 is print materials. Again, you'll see your 4 options for most people, and in considering the new advisement, most of you are going to pick for the year, depending on if you are using circulating or owning. But we're going to do owning. So again, we're going to clone it by selecting it from the drop-down menu, putting it in our folder, and hitting save. Okay, so I'm ready to run it. I'll go to my folder under templates, and we'll see print materials by owning library, filtering on year. Just going to put a check in the box, and I'm going to create a new report from selected templates from the dropdown. Again, it's going to give you some instructions up here. It's going to give you the link to the documentation if you want those step-by-step instructions. So we're going to name our report whatever we want. I'm going to pick my folder, which is always going to be annual report. And the first question is, who is the owning library? So let's run it on all of Susquehanna just for some multiple items. I'm going to hit add. And I'm just going to scroll up to the top because it's asking me to pick circulation modifiers. And this one is print materials. So the print materials tend to be, and this all depends on how you catalog your items, books, high demand books. And all I'm doing is I'm scrolling through the list, selecting the one I want and clicking the add button. Some libraries use book club kits. Reference material counts in this because most of your reference material is print material. Non-circulating is what it's called, and some libraries have government docs that are print material. Again, it all depends on your collection, so you folks know that a little bit better than I do. So you'll pick the circulation modifiers that encompass all of your print materials. So you're gonna, again, here's that year where it's asking, and we only want things that were created before 2024. So again, we're gonna put it in 2024. We're gonna hit calculate subgroups because we do have multiple libraries this time. So let's see what happens there. We're not gonna reoccur. We're gonna run it as soon as possible. Again, you can have your email addresses in there if you want. I'm gonna take mine out for now, and I'm gonna select my folder. If, for instance, you forget to pick a folder or something, say you forget to put in the year, if you try and save, it's going to tell you that one or more of the user-defined parameters has been empty. So you just want to look up here and see which ones you're missing. So I'm going to put in 2024 again and hit save. My report was saved. And I will either get an email if I put my address in, or I can do annual report on the outputs. So now you can see this one is still in the pending, so it's still running. You can see that I started it on the 5th of February at 2:26. So I can go down to my output folder again and hit testing. Nope, annual report. And it's still taking a minute. All right, sometimes it takes a couple seconds. You'll see it finished because it's in the completed area. So I'm going to check the box and view the output. Now we have lots of bars in our bar chart. But I could also look at it in the tabular output and see those nice subtotals. So Forest City has this amount, Halstead has this amount, Montrose has the 52,827, things like that. And then Susquehanna has this total, and then it totals everything all together. So you can also download this again as an output to Excel if you want to save a copy of it for future use for anything. Any questions on that one? Okay. So I'm going to go back down to my annual report folder in shared templates, 2023 with documentation. And you'll continue cloning your templates and running them. So again, most of the reports have full descriptions and tips on how to run them, and then again, the full external documentation. So let's clone this one. I'm gonna go a little quicker since we've done it. And this is print. Now printed or serials. This one's always a little tricky because not everybody catalogs their periodical titles. So this one is good for getting a list of the items that are in your catalog, but you might not have the number of print titles or copies, because you really, based on my understanding, is that you just need the number of titles, not the number of copies of magazines. And if I am incorrect, please let me know. I'm gonna create my new report. And I'm gonna do E3 2023. I'm gonna again pick my folder. Let's pick on another library. I don't want to think. Let's pick on Bangor. I don't want Susquehanna thinking that I'm picking on them unnecessarily. So we'll look at Bangor, and it's going to look for all of the titles that you have cataloged as serials. And we're going to run it as soon as possible. And we're going to pick our folder. Oh, and see, I forgot info. So the create date again is 2024 because we want items that were added to the catalog before 2024. And go to my output and hit testing. Nope, annual report. I use the testing folder all the time, so kind of muscle memory to go there. All right, so we have E3, which is our serials titles. And I'm gonna check the box and hit view output. So this one is loading funny because there's probably a lot of info. So let's do the tabular. And in this case, this is a list of all of the titles that are in the catalog where you have copies that you added to in 2023 and earlier. So this is kind of an indicator of what titles you have. If you have another software that keeps track of your subscriptions, it's always good to check and compare to that. Or you, sometimes people use like a spreadsheet or something to keep track of all the serials, because not all libraries catalog their magazine titles. So if you don't catalog your magazines, this report will not be helpful to you. So you'll need to look at your other tracking methods for that. Any questions on E3? Okay, let's move on. So again, back down to our shared folders, back down to annual report 2023 with documentation. And we're going to go to E6, which is the next one. So again, you'll see your 4 options. Most of you will pick audio physical units by owning library. We're going to clone it. Put it in our folder. And this scary screen will load, and all you have to do is hit Save Template. And OK. All right, and then you'll go up to My Folders and Annual Report. So here it is, along with the other 3 that we cloned, E6. Check the box in front of it, and you're going to create a new report from selected template and submit. Again, this one will give you instructions and have that link. We'll run E6, 2023, 3. Gonna pick my folder. Gonna pick my owning library, so the library that owns the material. Let's run it on Nazareth. We're gonna do that create date, so anything created before 2024. And again, this depends on how you catalog things, but most libraries are going to be looking for audio circulation modifiers. So things like audiobooks, high demand audiobooks, media, and music. Music is typically used for sheet music, but I know sometimes libraries use music for their like music CDs instead of media. So it depends on how you catalog your items. Again, it's going to filter out anything that was deleted. I'm going to remove my email address. I still want it to do Excel. Still want a bar chart. I want it to run as soon as possible. And I'm not going to pick a folder just so you can see what happens. It's going to say provide an output folder. So if you forget a folder, it'll remind you. I'm going to select my annual report 2023, and I'm going to hit save report. It's going to tell me it succeeded. And if I didn't put an email address in, it's going to go to my, well, even if you did put an email address in, it'll still go to your outputs folder, to the report folder that you selected. And we'll see E6 up here in the completed section. So to view the output, I'm going to do check the box and hit submit. Again, it's going to give you this not so handy chart. But then if you click tabular output, you'll see the counts broken down. If you click this back to output, you can always hit Excel output and download the file. When I used to do this for a library that I worked at, I would always download a copy of the Excel spreadsheet just in case I needed it for anything. And then also it does give you the template documentation as well if you want to, check and make sure you ran it correctly. All right. Chugging along here. All right, any questions on E6? I feel like a bingo caller. Okay. I'm gonna go to my shared folders again, annual report 2023. The next one is video. Again, I'm gonna pick the last one because it's owning library by year. I'm gonna clone that template. I'm gonna put it in my folder. Gonna save it. And then go to my folders, annual report. And there it is, E7. Check the box and create a new report. And it could be anything you want it to be named. I'm gonna stick with our number and year. I'm gonna pick my folder. There are options to do the pivot tables, and I normally don't recommend these in general. So I think there are a few later in the report outputs that I would recommend it. But for these, the breakdown is pretty simple. So I don't usually recommend using them. Let me run it on a couple libraries. Let's run it for the Eastern Monroe libraries. Just so you can kind of see what multiple libraries will look like. So again, it's always looking for that create date. And at this point, it's probably drilled into your head that we're going to put in 2024 because we want things that were added before this year. And this one is looking for video physical units. So we're going to be picking all of our movie circulation modifiers. So in this case, it's DVD, DVD nonfiction, DVD-R, high demand DVD and Blu-ray, high demand DVD-R, and the way down at the bottom, video. Again, this all depends on the circulation modifiers that you use at your library for cataloging purposes. So your selections might be slightly different. So I'm going to, since I'm running it for multiple libraries, I'm going to have it calculate those subgroup totals. And I'm going to run it as soon as possible. Take out my email address for now. And I'm going to have it put it in my annual report folder. And then hit save. So I'll go over to my output folder and hit test. Nope. The annual report. And you can see it's still under pending, so it's still running. And all I have to do is refresh or click the folder that it lives in until I see it in the completed section. So I'm gonna check the box and view the output. As you can see, I have lots of fun graphs. If I do tabular output, I have my subtotals. And then the main master subtotal at the bottom. You can always click the back to output index and download this as a spreadsheet if I need it. Okay. All right, any questions on video? All right, gonna go to number 8. We're gonna go again, shared folders, annual report. Always click that little arrow next to the folder to have it expand. And then the last one is other physical materials. So this is pretty much everything else in your catalog that's not a video, that's not audio, that's not periodicals or other print materials. So we're going to go to the bottom one, which is by owning library and filters on here. Check that box, and I'm going to select clone from selected template from the drop-down menu. Pick my folder. Hit save. And then I will find it in my templates. And it will be that last one. So I'm going to create a new report from selected template. 2023. Gonna pick my folder. Again, picking my owning library. Let's use Tunkhannock. We're gonna pick things from 2024 that were created before 2024. And now this really depends on how you catalog your things. For most libraries, you're gonna be using electronic device or equipment, especially if you lend it out. Kits sometimes are considered in here. Realia, software, Again, this all depends on how you catalog your items. If you have any questions on this one, or any of them really, you can just let us know. We can help you work through which ones you should be selecting. Again, I'm gonna have running it only on one library, so I'm just gonna not have it calculate, but I'm gonna have it do that bar chart. Pick my folder. And I'm gonna look at my outputs. Annual report. It's still running. All right, that one took a couple seconds longer. So again, just clicking that folder will refresh the page for you. Check the box next to the report I want to view, and I'm gonna have view. Again, not always the easiest thing to read for this bar chart, but you could always click tabular output for those numbers. Or if you want Excel output to download them. So those are all the reports pertaining to the physical quantities of things you have in your catalog. Are there any questions before we move on to circulation and patron counts? Okay. Let's move on. All right, so we're going to go down to shared folders. We are going to annual report. Again, click that little arrow. Again on 2023, and we're going to go to registered users, which is F1. This is where you'll see some changes. We have either registered by home library, and you can filter it on a date range. And then we have filtered users by home library for the year. The filtered by date range one was for those who had those different years. For this year, it's going to be just pretty much everyone picking filters on year. So we're going to clone our template. Put it in our folder. Again, you can just hit save. And then go up to my folders, NG templates, and then annual report 2023. All right, it's going to be all the way down here at the bottom, F1. I'm going to create a new report for selected template. Name it F1 2023. Pick my folder, and I'm going to put it in. Now this one, it has, again, some instructions up here, as well as the link to the more detailed instructions. We're looking at the home library of the patrons. So let's pick North Wales. I'm going to pick my library. And then I am going to select the profile permission groups for patrons. So 1 year restricted is a new patron group we have this year. Adult 3 year. Courtesy 3 year. Extended. I'm going to pick ILL because this is the number of ILL cards that we have. So other libraries that borrow from us. I'm going to put that in there. Internet only, juvenile. You can also click and then kind of select multiples by holding down the shift key if you want. So you would hit, like limited 6 months, hold down the shift key, and then scroll down to like, nope, sorry, control, and click individual. Temporary. So it's all of the patron groups. And then we are looking for cards that have expired 3 years earlier. So for example, if you are running it for 2023, we're going to put in 2020. So this will give me all the cards that that expire 2020 or later. It's not going to give me anyone that was deleted. It's not going to give me anyone that was barred. And it's not going to give me anyone whose active box was unchecked. I'm going to then do, keep my, since this is counts, can keep all these options the same. I'm going to take out my email address and I'm going to pick my folder, annual reports. And then I'm going to go down to my outputs and look at annual reports. And there is F1 and view output. And then I have a number for the number of cards for patrons that expire 2020 or later. Does that one make sense? That one's always a tricky one.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
So it says on the home library, but so it's only pulling the card holders who their home library is listed as whatever library?
Yes.
Because we have a bunch of people who say Mary Muser is their home library, but they have active cards at Easton. We want to make sure we include them as card holders, right?
So Mary Muser is not in Spark.
I'm sorry, bad example. Bangor, say Bangor.
So Bangor is their home library.
So Bangor's their home library, but they come here and are card holders at Easton.
So, but Erin, do you issue them an Easton card?
Yes, just without the Access PA sticker.
Yes. So they're in the database, then that card number is a home library Easton card.
Okay, so it's counting it as a home library card still.
Yep.
It's not counting, maybe I'm confused about what it's saying when you register a card.
When you register, it'll be the home library. So home library in Evergreen tends to be the library they sign up at.
Got it.
Yeah. So as long as they're getting a unique card for the library they're signing up at,
then it's going to count them.
Then it'll count them. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I was like, oh, Mary Muser, you're really throwing me for a loop on that one.
Never mind, not them.
I'm like, we could probably figure it out, but yeah, it'd be very complicated. Yeah. So as long as they're registering for a unique card at that library, they can have multiple cards throughout your area. So I have cards for pretty much everywhere in the Northeast and then a couple in Lehigh Valley. So I'll be counted a few times, but I'm still a card holder because I have a card at that in that library.
Exactly. And we just wanted to make sure that we were counting everybody.
You are. All right. Is there any other questions on patron counts? All right. Let's move on. So down in, again, shared folders in templates, annual report. If you don't click, say you click on annual report, it will still expand, but this one, it will then ask you, it doesn't load anything. So just don't panic, just hit the little arrow. All right, so the next one is 10 because 10 comes before 2 in binary numbers. So we're going to just jump right to 10. So F10 is interlibrary loan items provided for other libraries in Spark. And I'm going to, that kind of that preface there. These are things that you are sending to other libraries. This is good for resource sharing groups. So we're going to click that folder and we're going to go again by owning library because that's what a majority of you will be using. And you're going to select clone, select the template and hit submit. and then you'll select Annual Report 2023. Again, just hit save. And I'm going to go to my folder, Annual Report. Now I'm getting a nice collection of report templates that I can use throughout the year. I'm going to find the one I want to run, which is F10. Create a new report from selected template. Again, going to name it something. All right, now this is where it gets a little different. This is looking for numbers of items that were sent from one location to another for the intent that it's to fill a hold, because it's being requested for an item to fill a request. So kind of matching that definition of what an ILL is. So we're going to just run it for the whole year. So we're going to do 2023 0101. If you don't put the date in correctly, it will stay red, and that is kind of like your indicator that you need to look at it. You can also pick the month picker, the date picker, and use the arrows to pick to the end of the year. Now, I'm going to look for the owning library. So these are items that I provided. So I am the owner of them, and I sent them to another Spark library. Again, this is good for resource sharing or library systems that are not consolidated, so a federated library system, and you're sending items that you own to one another. So let's pick our friends up in Lackawanna because they're the libraries I know the best. So I'm going to pick all of my locations. When you're picking owning libraries, you always want to pick the library that shortcode that actually owns the item. Don't pick the system. You don't pick the system shortcode because that they don't own anything. You want to make sure you always pick the libraries that own something. So we're going to go down and we're going to take the email address. And then, all of these can stay the same. We don't need a bar chart at this point. And in this one, you can do the pivot tables if you want, but I'll show you how it looks when you don't first. So if you hit Annual Report, save your report. Oh, looks like I forgot to pick a report folder up top. Gonna pick that and then save report. All right. That's gonna be in my output. And it's still running. Again, you can just keep hitting that folder for it to refresh. You could always use the refresh button up at the top of the browser. It does load a little bit differently, so you do still need to go down to your output and then hit Annual Report. I'm going to hit the 10 was the one we were running. So I'm going to check the box and view the output. So again, I turned off that bar chart because it wouldn't have made sense. So I'm going to look at tabular output. And this will be combination of, in the first column, all of the libraries that own the item, and then the number of items they sent to another library. So when you look at it, oh, I didn't know you could do that. You could sort within, yes. I didn't know you could do that. You'll always want to remove instances or not count numbers where the owning library is the same as the destination library. So, Abington sending to Abington, it doesn't count for an ILL because it's your own stuff. So when you do the math on these, you'll want to remove those. If you are one of the libraries using the Share-it integration, you'll now see all of the number of items that you sent to Access PA, which should match the number of items you lent in Share-it. So this is a good check. But if you started mid-year, just remember this isn't going to be the final total. So you want to make sure you check your Share-it stuff too. So this is what it'll look like if you don't use the pivot tables. You can always go back to the output and download it in Excel and then kind of do your removing for fields that you don't need to include in your numbers. So this is numbers of items that you sent out. So I'm going to go down and run 11, which is items that I received from other libraries, and I'll use the pivot table on that one. So again, annual report in our shared folders, 2023, go to 11. I'm gonna check the box and I'm gonna clone it. Put it in my folder. Save it. And then it's gonna be in my templates. Again, it'll be all the way down here at the bottom. And these are items provided from other Spark libraries. So I'm going to create a new template. F11, 2023. And again, you could put something in the description if you want. If you want, for this is for the pivot table, you can put the destination along the columns. Nope, owning on the columns. It'll make sense if you run it on multiple libraries. I'll show you. So owning on the column, and then the destinations will go across the top. So again, we're going to run it for the year. And if you don't put in the date correctly, it's always going to be year, month, day. So let's run it on Lackawanna again, just to kind of, for comparison. You saw way to the top. Again, we're going to pick our individual libraries. You don't have to run it on multiple libraries if you don't want to. You can run it on individual ones if you want. It makes your life easier. I'm going to take out the bar chart. I'm going to put in my folder. Oh, got my report folder up here. All right, let's go to our output. And it's done. That was very fast. We're going to review our output. You can see that there is nothing here because we unselected the bar chart component. And if you do tabular, look at that beautiful pivot table. Again, the destination libraries across the top, and then the owning libraries are down here. So if you're running it for a system, this is an easy way to run it. And then what you would do is you would go through and you would, remove where Albright and Albright meet. So you would remove that one, and then you would move Carbondale to Carbondale, things like that. So running it on a pivot table and running it not on the pivot table, those are two options. Do you folks have any questions on that one? Because these are tricky.
So I have kind of a question. Last year, the Office of Commonwealth Libraries clarified this. So if I'm remembering correctly, Elizabeth, it's that materials shared between locations in a federated system do count for the ILO questions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but if it's a branch, then that would not count. So in the case of
Correct.
Albright, then they would have to remove any of the ones that.
Yeah, so Albright to Children's Library. So Children's Library to Albright would be removed. Lackawanna County Children's Library to all of their branches. So the Bookmobile, the Children's Library, Nancy K. Holmes, they would remove all of those instances and Albright. So it's only in federated systems. If you're in a consolidated system, it does not count. These does not count for ILO. Anything you sent elsewhere. I think we only have one or two examples of a consolidated system.
Yeah, we have, I think, more hybrid systems than we have consolidated systems.
Any questions on running for ILL in Spark? So this is only one number. So if you do OCLC lending, you'll need to get your reporting get your number from OCLC. You'll want to get your number from ShareIt. And then you'll also want to run this report. So it's kind of like a couple different numbers added together for this number. Okay, not seeing any questions. So let's move on. Again, down to our shared temp folders, annual report 2023. We're gonna go back to 2 because I didn't put zeros in front of these. Again, this is physical circulation of items. Now, this one is a different one. So if you have very descriptive shelving locations, this will be helpful. You'll use circulation of physical items. If you need to look more granularly at the call numbers of the item for circulation of children's material or other things that you need to exclude, you're going to use this one here. So most people are going to use circulation of physical items, the top one. So let's clone that one, put it in our folder, hit save. And we're going to go to our templates, annual report, all the way at the bottom. Check the box, create a new report. We'll number it. One of these times I'm going to type the year correctly. Put it in our folder. And then this is going to look out, we're picking the date range that it circulated. So 2023, 01, 01, 2023, 12, 31. Again, you can do any date range. If you're ever curious about this template, again, can be used throughout the year. And that's why we built it this way, so that you can give you a little bit more flexibility with them. So they're not like they're not a one-trick pony. All right, so this one is going to give you some instructions as well. So we are looking for items, and we're not including things like Wi-Fi, hotspots, cake pans, tools, etc. We're just looking for traditional, quote unquote, library materials checked out to patrons. And you want to make sure you exclude your ILL permission groups, because we're not looking for ILL circulation. That's a different number. Remember, that's the number we were looking at before. So let's pick our library. I'm gonna pick one location. Let's do Barrett Paradise. And we're just gonna pick the circ mods that we use at the library, making sure not to include things that are not physical items. So, or books, audiobooks, DVD. To do DVDs. Remember, you can always hold down the control key and click DVD-R. We're going to skip electronic device because we don't want to use those. We need to do government docs if they circulate, high demand book, DVDs, audiobooks. We're going to skip ILL. In some instances, depending on how you catalog kits, but I'm going to skip it for now. You can include it depending on what it's used for. I'm going to skip Realia. I'm going to do serials. And and video. And now I'm going to pick our patron permission groups. In some instances, staff use checkout items in the catalog, and we don't want to check those because they're used for cataloging purposes. They check them out, or for programming purposes, and those are not true true circs. I'm sorry, I made an error. in the circulation modifiers, you can pick ILO. In the permission groups, you do not select ILO. My apologies. Internet only, Juve, limited 6 month, outreach, and temporary. Oh, I let go of the control key a little too early on that one, so let me go back and add those. Sorry about that. Oh, no, not local cataloger. All right, there we go. Now we should have everybody. All right, so we can keep our checks here because there is probably going to be a number. Move my email address and pick my folder. Again, I'm just going to either wait for it to come in my email, or if I provided it, I'm going to do my annual report. And here we go, F2. Again, we have a nice chart, and if you want, you can get that number there by clicking on tabular output. So that's circulation of, how do they word it? Circulation of physical items. So now you should be able to run F3, which is other items. So everything that you didn't pick in this first round. You're gonna clone F3, and there's only one option on this one. If you need the option to look at for call numbers, let me know, and I can restructure and put in another template for you. We're gonna clone it. Don't forget to clone. So in this case, it's going to be all of items that we didn't pick earlier. So F3, 2023. Again, you're going to pick your dates. Pick them by using the date picker. If you want, or you could type it out. Don't forget to put your folder. Let's run it. Meyersdale. And in this case, it's going to give you electronic devices, equipment, kits, if depending on how you catalog them and what's in your kits. Realia and software. Again, if you use those circ modifiers. Keep all your options the same. Just don't forget to pick your folder. Go to my input. And there it is at the top. And then I'll get a number of those items that were other, quote unquote, other physical items. All right, I think we're in the home stretch. Any questions so far? Okay, we have 2 more to go. So children's materials is F6. So this is a separate number that is included in the physical items. So we also have this broken down by call numbers and shelving locations. So if your shelving locations are just stacks or something like just books, and you don't have a great indicator of whether it's a kid's book or an adult title or a young adult title, you can use the call number one. If you have really granular or somewhat more granular shelving locations, you can use the shelving location one. So I'm gonna show that one because that one tends to be the more common one. You'll put a check in the box and you'll clone it. You're probably all pros at cloning things by now. Go to our folders to where we cloned it to. An F6, which is the last one. Nope. All right, we're gonna type in the year. Oh my goodness. I'm doing really good on typing today. What? Okay, there we go. Again, it'll stay red until you have put in the proper date. All right, let's do our friends over at the Milford Library. Again, we're gonna actually, it's only gonna give me the shelving locations for the library that I'm logged in at, which is test B, which does not have a lot of shelving locations. So let's see what happens. But you will pick all of the shelving locations for your juvenile or locations. So in this case, we have the option to do juvenile audiobook fiction and juvenile board book. We're not going to do YA because we are only looking for materials for children. And then I'm going to pick all of the patron permission groups so that we're not including circulation that was for items that were checked out by library staff for like library purposes, like a program or a display or something they needed to get picked for and made unavailable for a little while. Temporary. All right. And you can pick your options. Make sure you run it as soon as possible. Pick our annual report folder. And it was succeeded. Look at my outputs. And E6 is there. All right. And I had no circ for my location. But you would then see the circulating library, the name of the shelving location, and the number of items that you checked out from that shelving location for your children's material. Again, if you have more generic shelving locations, please let us know. We'd be happy to help you run those reports for shelving locations based on call number. And if you're ever interested in updating your shelving locations to make reporting purposes a little easier and wayfinding a little easier, we would be happy to help you do that. Okay, I think we have one more or two more to go. Annual report again. And then the last two are for non-cataloged items and for in-house use. Non-cataloged items, some libraries use this one for things like magazines are not always cataloged. I'm trying to think what else. Seed library stuff, because you don't want the seeds back. And stuff like that. So there are things that you want to keep track of circulation for, but you don't necessarily need a bibliographic record for. So I'm going to do run this, and it is cataloged circ 2023. And then I will pick my library. I feel like the Blair County Library System has a seed library. Heather, is that correct? Or you did? Okay. So I'm going to pick our friends Roaring Spring. Thank you. Pick our friends at the Roaring Spring. And I'm gonna pick the year. Always put the earlier year first. Oh, you don't know if they catalog them. Well, we're gonna find out. So these are non-cataloged items. So do they not use them for that either? Okay, let's add everyone in Blair County and we'll see what they have. Okay. Never hurts to check. Right. So again, I just picked my libraries and then the date range. I'm going to go to my output folders, make a non-catalog circ. Oh, and we do have some info. So you see they have puzzles, bundles, paperbacks. Some libraries use non-cataloged items for their computer use. Periodicals, seed libraries, there we go. So that report can help you with some of your other questions like computer use, stuff like that. But for these for these traditional items that you would then add the paperbacks to your physical item circ. And you would add like puzzles and things to your other item circ, your other physical item circulation. And then the last one is for it is called non-cataloged in-house use. Again, some libraries use this one to keep track of program attendance or use of computers or Wi-Fi use. So it really depends on if you're using these or not. Hit save. And we'll run them on we'll run it at Blair again just for comparison. Right. Our list is getting very long. There we go. All right. Again, you can use these templates any time of the year. You don't have to use them only for the annual report, which is why the dates are structured the way they are. All right, so I picked my libraries that were remote reporting usage. Keep all of my choices the same and save my report. Go to my outputs, my report folder, and then my in use. Check the box and review output. And for this one, I will do the tabular. So, you know, computer use, community room use, things like that. Seed library is here as well. So depending on the way people are using either the in-house use or the non-catalog circ, this will supplement some of their questions that are tied to the annual report. So that is a full walkthrough of all of our templates. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And in detail. So if you have, does anyone have any questions? Give everybody a minute to type. Or you can unmute yourself if you'd like. All right. Well, if there are no questions, I'll hang out. Oh, the trainings are saved on the support page, and we will email out all of the links as well as a link to the recording. Probably later this afternoon or tomorrow morning. But everything will be on the support portal at spark.pa.org. All right, I'm going to stop recording in case anyone has a question.